Good evening, everyone. Who's with us? I see Hilton with us, Taryn with us, Dr. Liz with us, Jeffrey with us. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Liz, Erev Tov, how are you?
Shavua Tov, how are you?
Shavua Tov Umvorach, Dr. Liz, how are you?
Yeah, this week's going to be Rosh Chodesh, unbelievable. On Friday and Shabbos.
It's Friday and Shabbat. It's going to be Rosh Chodesh Mar Heshvan. Please God, that should be Besorot Tovot.
Besorot Tovot. Oh, so Rav, so much is to unpack, so much has happened. I'll just start off that, it was the anniversary on Simchas Torah. And
Mazal Tov, B'Sha'at Tova, please God, many more.
No. Rav, the anniversary, unfortunately. Of the
you're
Nova,
talking about, sorry, I
Simchas Torah.
misunderstand.
But you know what, Rav? Many more anniversaries where people will be dancing hakafot instead of in showing that Am Yisrael Chai. So Bezrat Hashem, each anniversary will be an anniversary where we'll be dancing, and we'll show that we have overcome and we will overcome. So it was quite incredible in the area where they had the Nova festival in the massacre. So there were a lot of from Yidden that were there, and they went down for Simchas Torah, and they did hakafot in the same area to show that Am Yisrael Chai. And it was a nice, Iran, they say there was Iran, but there were missiles that attacked Netanyahu's home in Caesarea. And it was a nice that there could have been much more damage, but he wasn't harmed. But Israel, they stunned Iran. And when Motzei Shabbos, one of our neighbors came up to me and said, "Did you hear what happened in Iran?" So quickly he told me with the news because it happened over Shabbos. But they stunned Iran with a historic strike on 20 army sites. And what's amazing is that how did the Israeli Air Force get to Iran? We don't share a border, so we went over countries that are not friendly to Israel, and that they could have the precision military bases that we managed to strike. And this is so vital because it shows that Israel can strike Iran anywhere. We can take out their nuclear, we can take out their oil refineries. It's a major deterrent. And it was an incredible accomplishment. But with all what's going on, it's quite very upsetting today to hear about the ramming of this truck in Herzliya, near Army base. It could have been much worse, Baruch Hashem. But one Israeli was killed, and they neutralized the Palestinian. But something that you will not get in the Star, or you won't get in News 24, and you won't get it on SABC. They found the wife of her name's Smadar Muhammad. She's the wife of Yahya Sinwar, and they found pictures when she went into the tunnels. She was holding a bag. Now this was an amazing bag. This was a Hermes bag, which cost $32,000. And she took this $32,000 bag with her into the terror tunnels. Unbelievable. And everybody's crying about poverty, and there's no food and there's no money. But the wife of the mastermind has a $32,000 handbag. It reminds us of Arafat's wife. When she was in Paris, she was in a 5-star hotel, costing thousands of dollars every night, and nobody said anything. So, it's just amazing. It's just incredible. But, Rav, we're going through a hard time, as we all know, and we just have to have emunah that Hashem's with us, and we see amazing miracles. We see the tunnels in Lebanon, that they could have easily done a replica of what happened in Gaza. So, Baruch Hashem, they didn't. For some miracle, they didn't, because if they would have attacked us at the same time, who knows what would have happened. So Baruch Hashem, we have to be grateful for the many miracles that we are seeing. And lastly, Rav, and I'm sorry I'm going on, but lastly, somebody on the bus told me, said, with the Scud missiles, that you remember when Iraq sent the Scud missiles, there was one missile that went to Kuwait. It was an American military base. And there were so many American soldiers that were killed by one missile. When they had the Scud missile attack from Iraq. He said, look how many missiles have fallen on Israel. Hashem is protecting us. Unbelievably. There have been thousands and thousands. unfortunately, there have been casualties, but one missile fell in Kuwait on the American base, and it caused havoc, and so many people were killed. So we have to be very grateful, and we have to have tremendous emunah that Hashem is with us, which we know He is, and Be'ezrat Hashem, our soldiers should come back safely, and we'll have a real shalom. I mean, yeah.
We have the all of those hostages. Be'ezrat Hashem will be released soon. Shakua. Thank you, Dr. Les. Shavua Tov. Shakua. Thank you. Rabotai, the shiur, we're starting back at the Prophet Samuel. We're going back to our series every Sunday about the Prophet Samuel. And I would like first just to summarize chapter 12, what we done last, and then we go to chapter 13. We have our Baal Korah Jeffrey here ready. But first, I would like to dedicate the shiur in the soul of Esther Kaden Bat Ketia, Mordechai Ben Rahma, Tamar Bat Zehava, Eitan Ben Keren Ve'Avishai Nae, Malka Regina Bat Joya, Yaakov Solomon Ben Farha, Yafa Bat Kalman, Nahum Ze'ev Ben Israel, Shmuel Ben Dado, or Dudu. Okay, that. Also, I would like to dedicate the shiur in the health of Liora Bat Miriam, Menashe Naji Ben Faha, Rav Moshe Ben Bahia Batya, Rav Moshe Ben Devora, Rav Shlomo Yehuda Ben Dalia, Rav Abraham Ben Marina, Dvora Bat Esther, Sheina Keila Bat Hana, Mordechai David Ben Leah, Yehuda Hillel Ben Shulamit Leah, Haim Nahum Ben Pesha Reza Kohen, Baruch Ben Sarah Hiena, Idan Ben Batsheva, Baruch ben Sarah Hiena, Yehuda ben Eliezer, Meir ben Eliezer, Ayala Eden bat Rivka, Itai ben Tali, Emanuela bat Gavriela, וMalka bat Rachel. בעזרת השם, רפואה שלמה to them, ולכל עולה ופצועי עמו בית ישראל, בכל מקום שהם. ובעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח, והשם עלינו ברחמיו ירוויח. I'm just going to summarize chapter 12, and then we go to chapter 13. In chapter 12, we see that the prophet Samuel actually rebuked the children of Israel, and he said to them, you wanted a king, here you got a king, but what you done wasn't the right thing. Nachon, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu command that when you enter the land of Eretz Israel, you should point the king on you, but you should wait it for me to pass away and then to point a king. And he rebuked them. Then the prophet said to the children of Israel, look, you ask a king, here you receive a king, HaKadosh Baruch Hu granted your wish. And look what the king HaKadosh Baruch Hu given you. He's given you Samuel, King Samuel, a great king. Okay? But you have to understand that a king cannot help you if you're not going to follow the rule of Hashem. That means if you're not going to follow the mitzvah of Hashem, if you're not going to keep the Torah, no king can help you. Not only that, he said that you have to understand that the only thing that's going to keep you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to be on your side is only you're going to obviously keep the mitzvot and make sure that not only that you make the mitzvot, you keep the law of the Almighty. Then the prophet actually said to the children of Israel, I want to prove to you that what you done wasn't right, to appoint a king while I was still alive. And the season now is the season of harvesting. In an Eretz Israel, you know that it's not the rainy season. He said, but I'm going to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if I'm right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to bring rain on that season. That's me now. The Mefarshim explained that the prophet didn't finish to daven, and the next thing, thundering of lightning, and the children of Israel was so scared from the noise and the rain got stronger and stronger, that they couldn't actually take it, and they actually begged the prophet to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to stop it. And that showed that what they done wasn't right, and they was all upset, and they asked forgiveness, obviously, from the prophet. And to finish, the prophet said to him, look, I accept your, what do you call it, your apology, okay? But you have to understand one thing. I'm going to continue daven for you, for your success, for your health, but I want you to remember one thing. Nothing going to help you if you're not going to keep the Torah and mitzvot. My praise, my davening can help only if you and your king going to obey the law of the Almighty. But if you're not going to obey the law of the Almighty and you're going to continue, has v'shalom, to worship idol like you done before, nothing going to help you. And that's basically how chapter 12 ends. And by Ezrat Hashem now, we're going to start chapter 13. Jeffrey, I hope that you're ready. Yep. Chapter 13, verse 1. Ben shana Shaul במולכו, ושתי שנים מלך על ישראל.
It was in the first year of Saul's reign. He reigned over Israel for 2 years.
Okay. So here already, the English translation doesn't translate exactly what the prophet said. Look what it said. Ben shana Shaul במולכו. Shaul was 1 year when he became a king. And 2 years, he was a king over the Jewish nation. Completely different from what was the translation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeffrey.
Yes, they're saying that this was in the first year while he was ruling of
That's
the two.
It. And here it said, Ben shana Shaul במולכו. Shaul was 1 year when he appointed a king on the Jewish people. And all the Mefarshim say, what do you mean? 1 year old person can be a king? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. The second part can make sense, that he was a king of the Jewish nation for 2 years. He can be, he can rule for 2 years. That's not a problem. The question becomes the beginning. Ben shana Shaul במולכו. How can it be Shaul that was 1 year? Usually a baby doesn't speak. It's taken at least 3 years to start talking. Some kids take them even longer. So how can you say that Shaul was 1 year old when he became a king? So to understand that, we have to go to the Gemara in Masechet Yoma. The Gemara in Masechet Yoma, by the way, Yoma, what does it mean, Yoma? Yoma is mean the day. The day. Which day the Gemara referring to? The Yom Kippur. Masechet Yoma speak mainly about 99% of what it speak about Yom Kippur. Okay, all about the law of Yom Kippur. In Masechet Yoma, in page 22, folio 2, we see something very interesting. Rav Huna say, and he explained, what does it mean, Ben shana Shaul במולכו? What are you saying to me, that Shaul was 1 year old when he became a king? No. He said that what he's trying to tell you, the prophet trying to tell you, he explained, Rav Huna in the Gemara, that the same, like a child, like a baby, that when he's 1 year old, doesn't have any sin. Shaul, when he appointed as a king, never have any sin. So you're all going to ask, okay, so how old was Shaul when he appointed as a king? So I searched and I searched, and I found that Shaul was 60 years old when he first became a king. The first time that the prophet Samuel anointed King Saul, he was 60 years old. That's mean, said the Mefarshim, that Shaul HaMelech never sinned until the age of 60, when he became a king. To understand that, I needed to look at something more depth. How can it be that a man in the age of 60 never sinned? So the Ari Kadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, he born in Jerusalem 490 years ago. And in the Sha'ar Gilgulim, he wrote a book, Shmona Sha'arim. In Sha'ar Gilgulim, there is a section that speak about the reincarnation. It's not the book of reincarnation. The book of reincarnation been written by the Rama Mipano, Rabbi Menachem Azariah Mipano. It's two different books. Although that they're speaking about the same subject, the reincarnation, Sefer HaGilgulim, but in Sha'ar HaGilgulim, in Agdama Kaf Zayin, that means in introduction, in a 27 introduction, Ari Kadosh explained that who was King Saul. He explained that when Adam HaRishon sinned, when Adam sinned eating from the tree of knowledge, he gone to Nahal Gihon for 130 years. And we explain in a She'or on Shabbos, those that came, that a matter of fact, Adam HaRishon fought with his wife for 130 years. How can it be that you seduce me to eat from the tree of knowledge? They argue for 130 years. Can you believe it? But while he was sitting in Nahal Gihon, he wasted some of his sperm, and those sparks gone all over the world. Okay, and those certain people of us is part of that. Say Ari Kadosh, listen to that. King Saul never sinned, and he never was part of that, the sin of Adam HaRishon, that eat from the tree of knowledge. That means that Adam HaRishon, when he benefit from the eating from the tree of knowledge, okay, his body benefit, and each organ of his body got a certain enjoyment from the tree of knowledge. He said that, a matter of fact, King Saul was from the Veshet. Okay, that means that the place where the food gets swollen, but it's never actually enjoy the taste. And that's how come that Shaul, King Saul, never sinned until the age of 60. Then the verse tells us, Ushte shanim malach al Israel. That means that King Saul only merit to be a king over the Jewish nation only for 2 years. Now we explained in previous showing, I don't know if you remember, that King Saul wasn't from Malchut Yehuda. He wasn't from the kinship of Yehuda, from the tribe of Yehuda. The only reason that he merited to become a king, because his grandfather, Binyamin, okay, never bowed down to Esav when they met. Why? Because when Yaakov Avinu met with his brother Esav, Binyamin never born yet. So therefore, he merited to be a king of the Jewish nation only for 2 years. So now we can understand verse 1. Let's go to verse 2 and let's see what the prophet tells us. ויבחר שאול 3,000 מישראל, ויהיו עם שאול 2,000 במחמש ובהר, בבית אל, ו1,000 היו עם יונתן בגבעת בנימין, ויתר העם שלח איש לאוהלו.
Right. That Saul chose 3,000, talking about troops from Israel. 2,000 were with Saul at Michmash and at Mount Bethel. And 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeat Binyamin. And the rest of the people he sent off, each man to his tent.
What's happening here? Here we see that the prophet tells us that King Saul tried to establish his position as a king, and he chose 3,000 men. It means now he's making an army.
Yeah.
2,000 was with him in Michmash, and 1,000 with his son Jonathan, and they was in Givat Binyamin. Where is Givat Binyamin? In a portion of Binyamin, Behar Bet El, in Jerusalem. Okay, that's where it was. So here we learn the prophet tell us something very interesting. Shaul, as a new king, trying to establish his new army, he chose 3,000 men. The rest he sent them to their house, but 2,000 was with him, and 1,000 was with his son Jonathan. Okay, let's go to verse 3 and let's see what the prophet tells us. ויך יונתן את נציב הפלישתים אשר בגבע, וישמעו פלישתים, ושאול תקע בשופר בכל הארץ לאמור, ישמעו העברים.
Jonathan slew the Philistine commissioner in Geba, and the Philistines heard about it. Saul had the shofar blown throughout the land, announcing, "Let the Hebrews hear."
Well, what exactly happened here? Jonathan was, we say, in the tribe of Benjamin, and was, let's call it a ruler, okay? Or how did he say it in English? Jeffrey, what did they call them, the Philistine?
But the
one that he killed.
Oh, sorry, the one that he killed.
Yeah.
He was a commissioner.
A commissioner.
He was a, hang on, sorry.
He was like a ruler of the area.
Yes,
commissioner
he was.
of the area.
1 second. They called the commissioner. He was one in charge of the area. He was like the
commissioner of the area.
Governor.
And
the governor of the area.
Sorry?
It'll be the governor of the area.
The governor of the area. Okay. What happened? Jonathan killed him. Jonathan didn't ask, didn't get permission from his father. That means Jonathan, with his own decision, make his own decision, decide that this commissioner, obviously they have some dispute. He didn't like him, and Jonathan killed him. Now, he created a big problem. He created a major problem against the Plishtim. Why? Because the Philistine saw it as a coup. Now, the Jewish people trying to cause a coup and to open a war against us. Shaul HaMelech blow the shofar. Who did he blow the shofar? To the Jewish people. Tell them, look what's going to happen now. That means he already prepared them to understand what they're heading for. Verse 4, verse 5, we see that how huge is the Philistine army. But we have to understand that what's happened here, by that Jonathan actually decide that he gonna kill the governor, the ruler, whatever you want to call it, he actually caused a major problem to the Jewish people. We'll speak about it in the end. Let's go to verse 4. וכל ישראל שמעו לאמור, היכה שאול את נציב הפלישתים, וגם נבאש ישראל בפלישתים, ויצעקו העם אחרי שאול הגלגל. Look what's happening here.
Yep. All of Israel heard the announcement saying, Saul has slain the Philistine commissioner, and Israel has become despicable in the eyes of the Philistines. And the people were summoned to Saul at Gilgal.
What's happening here? First of all, in verse 3, the prophet tells us Jonathan killed the commissioner, the governor. In verse 4, the prophet tells us Saul killed the governor, the commissioner. So decide who killed the governor, Saul or Jonathan. The Mefarshim explain like this. What's happened here? In reality, Jonathan was the one that killed the governor, the commissioner. But because Saul was the king of the Jewish people, it's his responsibility. And it's considered like he killed them. When that happened, Saul heard that and he decided he's going to the Gilgal. What was the Gilgal? We explained that after what's happened with Ali and his son and Shiloh, in a place that called Shiloh, that they used to sacrifice, that used to be basically like a temporary tabernacle, okay, they moved it to the Gilgal. And the Gilgal now, that way was the Mizbeach. And Shaul remember that the prophet Samuel said to him, it's going to happen a situation that you wouldn't know what to do, and you're going to be in dire straits. And that time, you're going to where? You're going to the Gilgal, and you'll wait for me for 7 days. Wait for me for 7 days. Don't do anything. Don't bring sacrifice. Wait for me to come. And when I'll come, I'll tell you what to do. The prophet tells us that when it happened, it was a major situation. The Jewish people suddenly see, and now we're going to go straight in verse 5 to see how great was the Philistine army. They follow Shaul to Gilgal. In verse 5, now the prophet going to describe to us how huge and how strong is the Plishtim. Why did the Jewish people was so frightened and they actually was worried? Look what it said in verse 5. ופלישתים נאספו להילחם עם ישראל 30,000 רכב ו6,000 פרשים ועם ככל אשר על שפת הים לרוב ויעלו ויחנו במכמש קדמת בית אבן.
The Philistines gathered to wage war against Israel with 30,000 chariots, 6,000 cavalry, and foot soldiers as numerous as the sand of the seashore. They went up and encamped at Michmash, east of Bet Aven.
Okay. Here the prophet described to us the strength, the power of the army of Plishtim. And he tells us that they came with 30,000 chariots, 30 6,000 chariots, 6,000 riders. It means cavalries.
Yeah, cavalry. Yeah.
And soldiers that walk, infantry, like the sand on the sea. That means,
Couldn't count them.
let's calculate. Saul make an army of 3,000. 1,000 with his son Jonathan, 2,000 with him, together 3,000. What is the chances of those people to fight against such a great army? But that's not the end. Where did they go? They gone to Michmash. Where was Michmash? First of all, we have to understand. Michmash is in the east of Samaria, just above the Jordan Valley. It's east of Samaria, just before the Jordan Valley, still today. Okay? And we have to understand that who lived there? That Saul gone there, from there to the Gilgal. When they came to that place there, Palestine, that way used to live King Saul. From there, we said that he gone to the Gilgal. But we have to understand that a miracle happened. The Plishtim coming with all of that great and strong army, with the sophisticated weapon that they have, and what they do? They're waiting to strike, but they're not striking. That's the miracle that happened. Not only that, I have to explain something that here it doesn't mention in, the prophet doesn't say it, but the Mefarshim explain. Who was the ruler over Eretz Israel? Was the Plishtim. That was the ruler. And they have a law that if you want to steal or metal, anything that has to do with metal, you have to get a permission. Why? Because they say that if they have free metal, people can make weapon for that. Sword, bow and arrow, okay, spears that they can fight. So they put a control for people to get metal. But people needed to work the ground. They have to be farmers. So what did they used to do? The Plishtim, they have a law. You apply, let's say, for a shovel. You apply for a fork, and etc. All of those things that you needed for to work, you have to put application, and there is the bureaucracy. It's basically like applying for a license for a gun in our day. And that's how they control that no one actually will have weapon like them. And now, Saul have 3,000 men that he chose as the army. And what did they have? Some of them have spade. Some of them maybe have a fork, those long fork to fight. Maybe they can fight with that. And that's what they have. And maybe one or two have few picks. But compared to bow and sword and spears and chariots and the cavalries, where are you going to start with them? Bow and arrow that they had, and the infantry that they had. What is the chances? They didn't have any chances. So Shaul decided, I remember what the prophet Samuel told me, when I'm going to get to a situation that I'm going to be in dire straits, I need to leave everything and to go to the Gilgal. And I need to wait in the Gilgal for 7 days. And only then, when the prophet's going to come, he's going to tell me what to do. So what King Saul do? Go to the Gilgal. And he have 2,000 people, his soldiers that follow him. Okay? We'll see how many of them left from the 2,000. And now we read verse 5, we go to verse 6 and 7. I'm going to read them together. ואיש ישראל ראו קיצר לו, כי ניגש העם, והתחבאו העם במערות, ובחבאים, ובסלעים, ובצריחים, ובבורות, והעברים עברו את הירדן, ארץ גד וגלעד, ושאול עודנו בגלגל, וכל העם חרדו אחריו. Verse 6 and 7. בכבוד, ג'פרי.
Yes. The men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the people were hard pressed, and the people hid in caves and in fortresses and in rocks and in towers and in pits. Some of the Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul was still in Gilgal, and all the people who remained hurried after him.
Okay, what's happening?
True.
When the people saw what's happening, they saw the great army of Plishtim, they got a fright. The 2,000 people that was with Shaul, suddenly Shaul gone with them to the Gilgal. Every night, people disappearing. He wake up in the morning, there's less and less people. People start to get worried. People didn't realize, didn't believe that they're going to survive it. And so how can it be that we're going to find such a great army, sophisticated army, strong army, and we're not going to die? So people start flooding. Some fled between the mountain to hide, some in a cave, some even left Eretz Israel, gone across the Jordan Valley to Eretz Gad, to the portion of God, because no one believed that they're going to come alive from that war. The Mefarshim explain that after 7 days, that King Saul was waiting for the prophet Samuel, 600 men left with him. Rabotai, 1,400, what we call soldier, Jewish soldier that's supposed to be, disappear. Every night, 200 people disappearing, if you want to call it this way.
Yeah.
King Saul was by himself, underneath tremendous pressure from one way, because on one side, on Michmash, the army of Plishtim waiting for the order to strike, he have pressure from the other side, from the 600 people that left with him. He didn't know what to do. But the prophet Samuel said to him, you have to wait for me to come to the Gilgal, and I'm going to do the sacrificing. Shaul was underneath tremendous stress. From one way, he saw the great army of Plishtim on one side. From the other side, the pressure that he get from his own men. Listen, we have to start moving on. We have to start moving on. We can't wait. As much that we wait, time is against us. We don't have time. And he saw that every day people were scared, frightened, and every day, so to say, 200 people leaving. He left with 600 from 2,000. Let's see what the prophet tells us in verse 8. ויחל 7 ימים למועד אשר שמואל, ולא בא שמואל הגלגל, ויפץ העם מעליו.
He waited 7 days for the time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not arrive at Gilgal. So the people began to disband from him. fled.
Okay. What's happened? Now the real pressure starts. It's like a pressure cooker. The 7th day arrived. He left only with 600, those people that left with him. And he don't know what to do. From one way, Prophet Samuel said, you do not sacrifice. You have to wait for me to do the sacrificing. From the other way, the people tell him, listen, we don't have time. The 7 days is already past. What are you waiting? Shaul, King Saul, starts saying to himself, maybe I didn't understand what Prophet Samuel told me. He's waiting and waiting, and nothing in the horizon. Prophet Samuel is not in the horizon. He can't see him. And the pressure cook start to cook. You can imagine what's going in his mind. What's going to happen? Any minute. It's a miracle already that the Plishtim waited for 7 days. I can't wait anymore. And the pressure from the people getting stronger and stronger. In verse 9, look what it says. ויאמר שאול, הגישו אליי העולה והשלמים, ויעל העולה.
So Saul said, bring me the elevation offering and the peace offering. And he offered up the burnt offering.
Okay, in verse 7, the prophet telling us that King Saul actually couldn't take the pressure anymore. He couldn't wait for the prophet to come, Prophet Samuel. Because Prophet Samuel couldn't be seen even in the horizon. The people start saying to him, look, Your Majesty, maybe something happened to the prophet.
It could be.
Something obviously happened to the prophet that he doesn't come. We cannot wait anymore. Rather, you do the sacrificing, and you sacrifice, and then maybe the Almighty will reveal to you what we should do. What is your obligation to do? King Solomon, the King Saul, in his heart, didn't want to do it. Didn't want to bring the sacrifice. The intuition that he had told him not to do the sacrifice. But he gone against his intuition. What has he done? The prophet say that he sacrificed, he brought the sacrifice himself. That means he sacrificed on the altar the sacrifice. As he finished to sacrifice, look what it says in verse 10. And verse 10 tell us exactly what happened. ויהי ככלותו לעלות העולה, והנה שמואל בא, ויצא שאול לקראתו לברכו.
It was just as he finished offering up the burnt offering, when behold, Samuel arrived, and Saul went forth to greet him.
As King Saul finished to sacrifice, who arrived? The prophet Samuel. When the King Saul, the prophet Samuel, he gone to greet him, to welcome him. Look, let's see what's happening in verse 11 and 12. ויאמר שמואל, מה עשית? ויאמר שאול, כי ראיתי כי נפץ העם מעליי, ואתה לא באת למועד הימים, והפלישתים נאספים במחמש. ואומר אתה, ירדו פלישתים אליי, הגלגל, ופני אדוני לא חיליתי, ויתאפק ועלה העולה.
Saul said, because I saw that the people were disbanding from me, and you had not arrived by the arranged day, and that the Philistines were gathering at Michmash. And I thought, now the Philistines will ascend upon me to Gilgal, and I have not supplicated before Hashem. So I fortified myself and offered up the burnt offering.
What's happened?
Sure. I understand.
When the prophet Samuel came, he realized what King Saul done. And he said to him, what did you done? What did you done? I told you, when you get to die straight, you go to the Gilgal. You wait for me to come, and you're not allowed to sacrifice. Why did you done what you done? King Saul tried to explain the stress that he was under, the pressure that the nation put him, by that people start disappearing. Some people even fled the land of Eretz Israel, and he left only with 600. When the prophet Samuel heard that, he explained to him, but you say, Vaitapek. If you look at the word Vaitapek, say that Rashi HaKadosh, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, that born in a city of Troa 984 years ago, he explained the word Vaitapek. Vaitapek, he have a lot of patience. He said that, you know why that I done the sacrifice? Because I was so frightened. I was so frightened that I brought the sacrifice, although that my intuition, my heart told me not to sacrifice. I gone against my intuition because I was frightened. Here, King Saul explained and expressed his mistake to the prophet Samuel. Let's see in verse 13 and 14 what the prophet tells us. In verse 13, ויאמר שמואל לשאול, נשתלקה ולא שמרת את מצוות אדוני אלוהיך, אשר ציווך, כי אתה הכין אדוני אל ממלכותך אל ישראל עד עולם, ועתה ממלכתך לא תקום. ביקש אדוני לו איש כלבבו, ויצווהו אדוני לנגיד על עמו, כי לא שמרת את אשר ציווך אדוני.
Samuel said to Saul, you have acted foolishly. You did not keep the commandment of Hashem, your God, that he commanded you. Until now, Hashem would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now, your kingdom shall not endure. Hashem has sought a man after his own heart and appointed him as a ruler over his people, because you have not observed that which Hashem has commanded you.
And those verses, the prophet Samuel said to the king Saul, because you obey the command of the Almighty, not my command that I told you not to sacrifice. Don't make mistake. That was the command from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because you didn't wait and you was frightened, you lost your kingdomship. You were supposed to, as a matter of fact, to be a king of the Jewish people for many years. But because you didn't have the patience and you couldn't wait for me to come, you lost your rule as a ruler, as a king, your kingship over the children of Israel. Rabotai, let's stop here for a few seconds and let's understand what's happening. Prophet Samuel tried to explain to us, and the message here, that sometimes that we do things without hesitating, without thinking. Hazal say something very interesting. Pzizut me'asatan. When people is very hasty, you must understand, when you make a quick decision, this is from the Satan. Say the prophet Samuel to Shaul, because your emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu wasn't strong enough, and the pressure that the nation put on you, those 600 people that was with you, I understand that it was a pressure cooker. But as a king, you should learn to be more patient. In verse 15, now we're going to verse 15. Let's see what's happened, what's going to happen. ויקום שמואל ויעל מן הגלגל גבעת בנימין ויפקוד שאול את העם הנמצאים עמו כ-600 איש.
Then Samuel arose and went up from Gilgal till Gibeat Benjamin. Saul counted the people who were still found with him, about 600 men.
Okay, in this verse, we see something very interesting. The prophet just get up and go. Doesn't wait, doesn't talk a lot. He said to Shaul, you done the sacrifice, I can't help you. I was supposed to get to sacrifice, and then the prophecy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give me the prophecy, and I can instruct you what to do. But because you took the initiative and you sacrificed by yourself, I have nothing else to tell you. Therefore, I'm leaving. I'm going back to where? To Givat Binyamin. King Saul saw that. At the beginning, he ran after him, but he realized that there's nothing to talk. He decided that's it. He counted the people that with him, and he counted these 600 men, 600 soldiers. But here the prophet tells us the emunah of the King Saul. That means that now he's getting actually stronger with his emunah. Instead of breaking down, the opposite, he's getting stronger with his emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now he's counting his men to see how he's gonna deal with the situation. ושאול ויונתן בנו והעם הנמצא עמהם, we're reading verse 16, יושבים בגבעת בנימין, ופלישתים חנו במכמש. Listen to that.
Saul and his son Jonathan and the people who were found with them were staying in Gibeah Benjamin, while the Philistines were encamped at Michmash.
So first of all, we see here something very, very interesting, that Saul and his 600 men and his son and the people that have with Jonathan, they're all now waiting to fight. They gathered together in Givat Binyamin. What did they have with them? Forks, picks. That's all what they can find, a few spades. So they gathered together. They're waiting to see what's going to happen. But the prophet tells us that the Plishtim doesn't strike. The Plishtim still waiting in Michmash. On one side, the Plishtim, on the other side, Shaul and his son, and the soldiers. A miracle. From verse 17 until verse 23, actually, here the prophet telling us, I think that maybe, Jeffrey, would you mind to read it quick from verse
Yes.
17 to the end, and then I
Yes,
will
I'll do it.
do the summarize. Okay? I'll explain it.
Right. Verse 17. A raiding party went forth from the Philistine camp in 3 companies. One company turned toward the road to Ophrah, to the land of Shmuel. One company turned toward the road to Beth Horon, and one company turned toward the road of the border, which overlooks the valley of the Zeboim, toward the desert. Now there was no smith to be found anywhere in the entire land of Egypt, for the Philistines said, "Lest the Hebrews produce a sword or spear." So all the Israelites would have to go down to the Philistines, each man to sharpen his plow and his spade, his axe and his hoe. There was a multi-grooved file that they used to sharpen hoes, spades, three-pronged pitchforks and axes, and for setting the peg of an ox goad. Thus, it was on the day of war that there was not to be found a sword or spear in the possession of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan. But they could be found with Saul and his son, I don't understand, sorry, who were with Saul and Jonathan, but they could not be found with Saul and his son Jonathan. A Philistine garrison went forth toward the Michmash pass.
Okay. What's happening here? From verse 17 to the end, the prophet actually described to us that Shaul actually very strong in his belief, and he tried to gather he gathered the Jewish people together, and they're standing opposite the Plishtim. But the Plishtim already have a different plan. They're trying to strike from all different areas. But Rabotai, we have to understand that the Jewish people didn't have any weapon, no sword, no spears, nothing. They can't fight. That means that the battle, it's a lost battle. We'll see in Bezrat Hashem next week. We'll read chapter 14. We'll see a different situation, what's happened. But I would like to point one thing. And you remember I spoke about it at the beginning. Who killed the commissioner? If you remember,
Jonathan.
it was Jonathan. Rabotai, if you look at that chapter, you see something very interesting, and it's come to teach us something very important that we can take a lesson. It's come to teach us that, look, none of the Jewish people complain and blame Jonathan. No one said, listen, Jonathan, you killed the commissioner. No one said to King Saul, listen, your son, he's the one that brought on us this problem. Your son caused that havoc. Your son brought the problem on us. No one said a word. It's come to teach us, Rabotai, the Mefarshim say, And maybe if we take that lesson, and it's not for nothing that I'm reading it, that we're starting to read that verse again, straight after the first year of, that was the first year of the 7th of October. It's come to teach us that the Jewish people didn't blame Jonathan, the son of Saul. They blamed themselves. The Emunah was so strong. There was such a strong nation with Emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that they didn't complain. They realized that if the Plishtim came to fight with them, is because their behavior is not right. Their behavior what brought on them this problem. That behavior, obviously, we have to check. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu send the army of Plishtim to fight with us? Maybe it's a point for us to think for a second what's happening with us today as a Jewish people. Why is the Plishtim? It's from Gaza, it's from the north, it's from the northeast, from all over. If it's Iran, the Houthis, inside Eretz Israel, why they suddenly waking up and fighting with us, that canal? So people can say, we was too good for them, we was that. Yes, that's all stories. The bottom line, do we check our deeds? And that's what the prophet tried to tell us here. That none of them complain. Instead, what they done, King Saul actually tried to organize his army and start to have more faith in the Kadosh Baruch. Although that the prophet Samuel said, listen, I can't help you anymore because you brought the sacrifice. I don't have the prophecy to tell you what to do. So I'm leaving. I can't help you. I'm sorry. Saul didn't lose any hope. The opposite, he got stronger with his emunah. And what has he done? He united the soldier that was with him and with his son, Jonathan. We learn from here something very important. Nation, and I would like to share it with you. On the third day of the creation, the Almighty said, when He created the all, what did He say? Ki tov. Ve'ereh Hashem et ha'or ki tov. And the Almighty saw the light, and it was good. The word tov means good. When it's referring to light, only when there is light, it's good, say HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I explained yesterday in a show, and I brought the commentary of Rabbi Yoram Abargel. Rabbi Yoram Abargel, born around 70 years ago. He passed away 5 years ago. He was very young when he passed. And in his book, Imre Noam, on a parsha, he said, take the letters Tet. That's the first time that the letter Tet actually been mentioned from the beginning of Parashat Bereshit until the third day. In chapter 4, verse, I think it was verse 3, if I'm not mistaken. What does it say there? Sorry, chapter 3, verse 4. It says like this. It's a take the letter Tet. How do you write Tet in Hebrew? Say the Mefarshim write, you write Tet, Yud, Taf. What is the gematria of the word Tet? Tet is 9. Yud is 10 to get a 19. Taf is 400. The gematria of Tet is 419. He said, let me tell you, you know what's the gematria of Ahdut? It's also 419. Ahdut is unity. That means you know when it's good for the Jewish people. You know when it's the best for us. When is the best light that you can see in the end of the tunnel? When we united. What is King Saul doing now? United the nation. Although it's looked like the game is over. There's no chance to win the war. It's like we saying we can fight America. On paper, we're losing the game. We're losing the battle. Kadosh Baruch Hu have a different plan. I think that the message here that we can learn from King Saul, that it's come to teach us the faith, the emunah that he have in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the important, the unity amongst the Jewish people. So Be'ezrat Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us strength and unity, and we should learn how to overcome all of those challenges that we have. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen, Ken Yehi Ratzon. Rabotai, I hope that you enjoyed the show, and I hope that I passed the message of the Prophet Samuel. The message of Prophet Samuel, and mainly the message from the King Saul that he tried to teach us. If there is any question, please unmute the microphone. Bechavod, I try to answer question. Ken, Bechavod. Jeffrey?
Yes, I'll start if no one wants it. There's something that's very striking here, which is a resemblance which happened to our nation, which is more striking than even the situation we're in today. When Moshe was delayed by one day, Aaron was in the same boat. He didn't know what to do. He had these people pressing him and he wanted to keep the people at peace and not fighting and killing each other. So Aaron went ahead and did that. And he created the wrong way. Look at the emunah of social.
He had so much exactly the opposite, what we call the boomerang.
Exactly. I mean, this Saul, I mean, he must have really had faith in his korbanos as well. I mean, he knew that he would get the prophecy, but he honestly believed in his heart he was doing the right thing. He was protecting his men. He was protecting everything there. He wanted to keep them unified and not scattered. And it's not easy to blame Saul, but he was blamed because he was told. I mean, he ruled for 2 years. He would have ruled for many, many years, and he was punished for that. But it was very harsh to punish him under those circumstances. He didn't even pitch up on time.
It's come to tell you that the Mefarshim actually say exactly what you say. I didn't brought it. That the same situation that happened with Aaron when Moshe got delayed, the pressure that the nation put on you, that's what's happened to Aaron. What's happened to Aaron also happened to Shaul. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to see, wait a minute, I chose you as a leader. As a leader, if I say something, you can't turn no left, no right. If the rabbi tell you on something that is black, although that you can see white, you have to believe that it's black. This message here comes to teach us something very important. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu says something, nothing going to change. Don't try to be uber-hofer. That's what Yaakov tried to teach us. Yaakov ish tam yoshev ohalim. Yaakov Avinu, our forefather Yaakov, Bahir Shebavo, the chosen amongst the forefathers, was a simple. What it means simple? That he believed if HaKadosh Baruch Hu says something, that's what's going to happen. If he told me to wait, I must wait. And if I'm not going to wait, it's not going to be mine. It's come to teach us that sometime in life, let me give an analogy for us to understand, and each one can take it personally and develop it. The sample that I'm going to give. Sometime in life, we want something so strong, so hard. We want it so much, but we see that we don't receive it.
Yeah.
And we try our best, and we do everything, and we turn in everything upside down just to get it. And we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to give it to us. But we never stop. We have to understand that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us what we want, it's going to work against us. It's going to be a bomb that's going to be a ticking bomb from us. If it was good for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks that it's yours, he will give it to you. And he will arrive on your doorsteps if you want it or if you don't want it. So why are you killing yourself to get it? Sometimes people want the contract so badly, and he will turn the world upside down, and he got the contract, and then he lost everything that he had. So what did you do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want to give it to you. Nachon, that we have to do ishtadlut atzmit, personal effort. Try, do it. You see that it doesn't work, stop. I done my personal effort. I asked, I tried, I put my tender. More than that I can't do. I put my quote. More than that I can't do. They want to accept the business. They will accept. Instead, what people do? They go left, they go right, they go up, down. And then when they get the contract and they start working, they start to realize that that business, a matter of fact, not for me, but it's too late. Sometimes we want a job. Sometimes people run after a wife, after a woman, to marry her. I'm just giving all different ideas. Or a woman running after a man. And it doesn't work. Leave it. You done your ishtadlut, your personal effort. Now wait. It's very difficult, but that's, I think, the message that it's come to teach us. You follow, Jeffrey?
Yeah, but Rav, there's a very, very fine line, because you work on something, not you're working on to do a project. You work on it over and over, and it keeps blocking. But why is it blocking? Because you had to learn something from the way it was blocked, and from that you go forward to the next stage and the next stage. So it's a fine line. Just you can't give up. You can't just say, well, it's not meant. But because sometimes after a lot of work, and you now are ready to receive it, because Hashem's not going to give it. If He does give it to you and you're not ready to receive, it's going to collapse. But you've got to keep trying till you're ready to receive it. And then when you're ready to receive it, you'll get it. If it's meant for you.
That's true. That's true. But it's only if you see that there is a hope to receive it.
Yes.
Sometimes from the beginning, you see that the challenges is too big. There's too many stamp on the way. There's too many stumbling. You stumble all the time. Here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tried to tell you, leave it. Just leave it. It's not for you. All of those projects, all of this contract that you're trying to get, it's going to bite you. And in the end, we saw it. Many people, wanted something, and they go to Rabbonim, and the Rabbonim daven for them. At the beginning, they don't receive it. In the end, they receive it. When they receive it, it's worked for them exactly like a boomerang. And let me give you an analogy. Let me give you an example. People fill up the lotto. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give it to you, we will give it to you with the first one, the second one, the third one. There's people that filling lottos now for years and years and years and years. How much money they wasted? HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to give it to you. You know why? Because if you're going to win that jackpot, that's going to turn you to a different person. You understand what I'm saying? You understand which direction I'm going?
Yes.
And I think that's what
that example is a good example. That example is an example. But when it comes to real life and working, and you have to go for opportunities that are given and what have you, and you work at it, and it doesn't work. But all of a sudden, you start building a foundation from what doesn't work. You learn, and then you build on that. You build on.
Yeah, but you're talking about two different things. You're talking about two different things. You're talking about when you start something. We're talking about you have a project. You put your tender. Yeah. Okay. You're talking about the beginning. I'm talking already when everything is been finalized. There's a tender. I know what you're referring to because we spoke about it individually a few times. But you put the tender. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want to give it to you. And in the end, you took it, and then it bite you. Why? Because this one ran away, this one doesn't pay, all different ideas. If from the beginning you saw that the Almighty telling you, listen, this tender is not for you. Yeah. I'm not saying not to do personal. You have to do your ishtadlut. You have to do. But that's the beginning. But when that everything finalized and you see that it doesn't go, you have to say to yourself, this is not mine. Let me go to another project. You follow, Jeffrey?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Rabotai, any other question? No. In that case, I would like to wish all of you a beautiful night. Thank you for being with us. Hope that you enjoyed the show. And we'll be in touch again on Thursday. Wishing you all Shavua Tov, a beautiful week ahead to all of us. And the most important, peace in our land, and that we should see speedily the releasing of the hostages. Amen. Ken Yeratzon. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, guys.